This would be negative 32. And again, negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, and this works out. Negative 128 divided by negative 32 is just positive 4. Positive 4. The firework wasn't 4 feet in the air. It took 4 seconds. It took 4 seconds for this firework to reach its highest point. 4 seconds. Now, what was the height? Well, what do we do with that number 4? What was the height? We want to find the y value or the h value. Let's just plug in 4. Let's plug in 4. After 4 seconds, how high was it? So if you just plug in 4, again, negative 16, do your 4 squared, plus 128 times 4. If I crank all that out, I get 256. Okay, so again, all we're doing here is we're finding the vertex, but that vertex means something in word problems. Okay, so my vertex is 4, 256, which meant this firework got to its maximum height. The maximum height was 256 feet high. 256 feet high, and it took the firework 4 seconds to get there. So 4 seconds went by, it was 256 feet high. That's how we find a lot of times max heights or maximum heights with word problems. We just opposite b over 2a and then plug that in. Okay, so I want to kind of walk through a couple more here, just again getting good at these word problems, trying to make sense out of them, but it's exactly what we've been doing. That's all it is. Okay, this problem here, it's kind of 2 parts to it. There's a question that ultimately says which balloon went higher. Okay, the first balloon or the second balloon. And what's interesting about this is, a group of friends is launching water balloons. The function f of t looks like it's, again, some equation here that's definitely in standard form. This problem here, it's kind of 2 parts to it. There's a question that ultimately says which balloon went higher. Okay, the first balloon or the second balloon. And what's interesting about this is, a group of friends is launching water balloons. The function f of t looks like it's, again, some equation here that's definitely in standard form. This equation represents the height. It represents the height in feet of the first water balloon. So this is all about the first water balloon. And now if you look here, the height of the second water balloon is shown in the graph. So which balloon went higher? Well, here's the good news. The second balloon, we can just look at the graph. We don't have to do a bunch of work. We can just say, oh, how high did the second balloon go? You can just look at the graph and say, oh, well, it looks like it went just over 125 feet. Just over 125 feet high. That balloon was 125 feet in the air. How high did the first one go? Well, we don't know. We don't know how high it went. Okay, picture this graph. Notice, hey, it's negative. When the a value is negative, you know this parabola is going to be flipped upside down. And again, how high did it go? Well, right there, it's the vertex. It's the vertex. The vertex is always going to be how high it went. So we can just do opposite b over 2a, plug that in. Again, you have an a value, b value, c value. So again, this is just me working out opposite b over 2a. Notice you get 2.5. So 2.5, that's not how high the water balloon went. That's 2.5 seconds. It took 2.5 seconds, and at 2.5 seconds, when I plug that back in, it was 105 feet in the air. It was 105 feet in the air. So the first water balloon was 105. The second water balloon, about 125. So which balloon went higher? Well, it's pretty obvious that the second balloon went higher. And again, that's finding the vertex, things that we've been working on, okay? Another question here, just to kind of keep working through these, keep making sense. So again, here's another function, negative 16t squared plus 16t. This time it represents the height in feet of a horse, t seconds after it jumps during a steeplechase. So just picture a horse kind of running along, picture the horse jumping. It's going to go through the air. Eventually, it's going to get to its highest point, and then it's going to come back down and land on the ground and keep running. So this graph represents a horse jumping through the air. So there's 2 questions here. When does the horse reach its maximum height? and what was the maximum height. So when, like how many seconds, that's going to be the x value of my vertex, and what was the max height, that's going to be the y value. Okay, so again, all I'm doing in this entire problem is doing opposite b over 2a, and then I'm just going to plug it back in. That's it. Okay, so start by doing, labeling your a, labeling your b. Notice there is no c value. The c value would be 0, but a, b, c. So if I, again, opposite b over 2a, this would actually be negative 16 over 2 times negative 16, right? So this would be negative 16 over negative 32. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. And this just works out to be 0.5, okay? Why is it just 0.5? Well, when a horse jumps, does it stay in the air very long? Probably not, right? It only took the horse a half a second. Like a half of a second is when it got to its max height. A half of a second, 0.5. Okay, what was the horse's height? How high was the horse at 0.5 seconds? Well, just plug 0.5 into that problem. Just plug it in. 0.5 squared times negative 16, right? And again, 16 times 0.5, just plug all that in. That's all calculator work. You get an answer of 4. 4. So this horse, what was the max height? 4 feet. It took a half a second for the horse to get 4 feet in the air. 4 feet in the air was the highest this horse went. Okay, so again, working through word problems, and then just kind of one last question here to end with, and I have that right here. Just a multiple choice question, kind of an old question just to make sense out of this. Like, hey, if it's in the form y equals ax squared plus c, okay, if the values of a and c are both less than 0, which graph could that be? Okay, so if the a, what do we know about this? If the a value, a and c, are both less than 0, well, what kind of numbers are less than 0? Negative numbers. So if your a value is negative, what do you know about if your a value is negative? If the a value is negative in a parabola, we know that it opens upside down. Therefore, it cannot be this one. Okay, I know that my a value is negative. How about the c value? Now the c value, remember, ax squared plus c. That movement is basically, the c value is basically your up or down movement. Like, is it going up or is it going down? And if the c value is also less than 0, so if the c value is negative, if your c value is negative, does that parabola go up? Does it go up if your c value is negative? No, it doesn't go up, it goes down. How about this one? This parabola didn't move up or down at all, so it can't be that one. And now if you look, hey, my a value is negative, and my c value is also negative because this parabola moved down. It moved down and it's upside down, so it must be that one there. So again, this part was pretty heavy, but we're dealing with word problems. And again, when in doubt, just find that vertex. Find that vertex, which is opposite b over 2a, and then plug that back in.